just small microaggressions. This definitely wasn't at Talent Point, as a disclaimer, but in previous jobs I've worked at, I've just had people say just little things, especially with my hair, saying, "Oh, is that your real hair? Oh, can I touch it?" Or they'll just reach for my hair without even giving me any personal space, or just feel entitled to as well, saying, "Do I have real hair underneath my wigs that I do tend to wear?" But I just feel like if it was a white person, we wouldn't ask the white person that. So that's what I faced in the workplace.
Well, yeah, I've had experience. To be honest, in the workplace it hasn't been too bad, but I've had experiences alluding to my experiences in the workplace. I've actually been told, before even my hair was as long as this, that I should cut my hair because it will be deemed as unprofessional and it will inhibit my ability to get good jobs, which obviously I took extremely personally, and then became really stubborn about it and made it almost my life's purpose to thrive while having my hair as long as possible. And Talent Point have given me that the platform to do so, and I've had nothing but positive comments made about my hair. So I think, this is my natural hair, but I haven't done anything, I've just let it grow. So the fact that just me having a different texture hair to other ethnicities or races can be deemed as unprofessional is obviously, it's a telling sign of how people may view black people in the workplace or in the outside world as well. There's also still schools that make it that send kids home if they have afros or cane rows or dreadlocks. So it's almost, unfortunately, a revolutionary act for a black person to maintain their hair in certain schools and in workplaces, and make a success of it.
Yeah, I think my experience has been mainly with kind of racial insensitivities, so subtle comments and subtle slurs that people use that, I guess, unless you're really aware and you actually make the effort to understand kind of the triggers that this can have behind kind of like our emotional reactions. So it's just kind of about subtle things like assuming that all black people are exactly the same, the generalizations, stigma and stereotypes that are there, but then it's also that cognitive dissonance between, oh, I'm not a racist or I don't have any prejudice, but then displaying that through specific comments. And I think especially in the workplace, stuff could be deemed as banter, it could be deemed as funny, but I think people do need to start taking accountability for the repercussions and implications that has on the way people feel based on kind of their experiences.
I think it's just a general sense of people being inconsiderate.
Yeah. And aware.
Yeah.
Have that sense of awareness.
Exactly. Just give that second thought of, is what I'm saying appropriate, how will that person take it? Just because you find it funny doesn't mean that the person I'm receiving it will
But
find
it's
it
also
funny.
wanting to educate yourself, because I appreciate not everyone grows up in a multicultural place and
Exactly.
deals with different people all the time, but it's more so not undermining people's experiences and not completely ignoring them, but taking it in, understanding, and then moving forward and acting as appropriate, as opposed to using ignorance as a kind of excuse for it. Oh, I didn't mean to, but it's like, but you did. And that's ultimately kind of it's a repercussion of the actions.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's a confidence thing. I think you kind of feel alienated because your differences are exaggerated. And by differences, it's not even kind of in the person that you are, but it's just your cultural differences and things that you can't necessarily control for. And it is that kind of, you want to be able to, anyone in the workplace, in order to have a productive, successful, motivated workplace, you want to be able to have this safe and trusting environment. And you can't do that if you're in a culture where people are insensitive to that, or you're not confident enough to come up to people and tell them about your views and tell them that what they said was insensitive or not appropriate for that specific workplace, or that specific conversation. I definitely think the confidence of some people has a huge impact.
But I think it's just it can be training, because when you do face certain situations we've spoken about before, you kind of, because your differences have been made so apparent when you haven't even been doing anything, in terms of the actions you do make, you make a extra effort to try and, well, I have done before, not so much now, you make a special effort to kind of carry yourself in a way that doesn't portray yourself in any kind of stereotypes. So you'll try and avoid colloquial terms, your mannerisms, and you'll try and almost censor yourself and filter yourself to almost a digestible version of yourself. So you avoid any of these like ignorant comments that might be made, just to try and make it easier for you. But that, to have to do that as well as do your job, it's just an extra layer of pressure. It's just, you know, you have to just, it's always an extra thought or extra filter before you do or say anything, because you feel like there's just almost, you're under a microscope. People are just waiting for this next expression of blackness so they can highlight it and either make a joke of it or just bring it up for whatever reason they feel need to.
It's also questioning your norm, isn't it, as a person?
Exactly.
It's the way you're brought up, it's something that you celebrate in terms of your culture, and then it being questioned. There's nothing wrong with being explored and being curious, but I guess it's that making it seem so different, right? It's that kind of, it's not normal, it deviates from what it should be.
Maybe you should shy away from everybody else kind of thing and hide into your shell, because it's just like you can't be your normal self around other people, so you just put yourself in a box. It kind of brings on anxiety to me as well.
No, 100%.
Just having that thought of like coming, I think in a way, like working from home, it has helped a lot of people in terms of they can be themselves at home, but in the workplace when they come back, especially people coming back and returning doing remote working, it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be all by myself, especially that you haven't met everybody yet kind of thing. You don't know who your work colleagues are, you don't know anything about you kind of thing, so just that thought of anxiety making you feel like I don't know if they'll accept me kind of.
I think as well as, you know, the underrepresentation as well in the workplace, right?
100%.
Because it's one of those things where we want in the workplace, we want to work with people that inspire us, that empower us, that motivate us, and we want to be able to see ourselves there, right? So for example, as women, when we see CEOs and CTOs, we're like, oh my god, women are driving the force, especially in tech right now. Like, it's such a big thing. It's like, it's such a rarity, but it's so inspiring because you think, actually, I can attain that. And it's the same for kind of in regards to skin colour and race, right? You want to know that you're being represented at top as well. You're not just hired to fill a specific statistic. We have some diversity, we have some culture, and that's enough. You genuinely want to be able to see that you can work up there and it is attainable, it is achievable. And obviously, I guess at the end of the day, you know, the person, you should always pick the right person for the job. I think it's irrelevant of skin colour, but I think create by creating those avenues, creating those opportunities, and I guess as you said in terms of anxiety, working hard, the added stress, the pressure, the emotional and mental pressure it gives us, it may hinder the performance from actually getting to a place where we can be at the top.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
We need representation across all boards.
Exactly.
And that just like emphasizes the importance of diversity, because all those little things you said that kind of make you feel anxiety or isolated from your peers, if not even if it's just like other black people, which will help, but if it's just people from different backgrounds in general, cultures, we'll all have little differences where we don't feel as isolated, instead of if it's just, you know, a group of white males, a couple white females, and then just you. Like it makes a world of difference just to have a, you know, open palette of different cultures, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and you know, it builds innovation, and you know, everyone can learn and grow from each other from a different background.
Just like London is very multicultural, so why in the workplace, some workplaces it's not like that.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
And it kind of implies that there's not enough people capable of doing the job from different backgrounds, which we all know is not true. So obviously something's going wrong in that recruitment process.
Yeah, it's all about really kind of embracing that difference, right? Whether it be cultural, whether it be from the way people think, right? You ultimately, in order to create this workforce, you need that difference to make it happen, and you want a healthy and productive one. And it really does hinder, because I know that when I look at, you know, companies, if I'm going to move or if I'm interested in a company, first thing I'm going to do is the LinkedIn. And if I don't see a diverse workforce, you just automatic assumption is
you're just like, I don't want to be that person.
Automatic assumption is it's for a diversity statistic. They need either a woman or they need someone, you know, black to come on board to fill it in. And it's really sad to think that that's your initial thought.
Honestly, but it has to be done. It has to be done. Like, even for me, the big reason I joined Talent Points was I saw on the website you won MVP like the month before. I was like, okay, not only black people here, but they're thriving and being recognised for it. This is somewhere I can make myself at home, and that just makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Just tell your whole mindset when stepping foot inside the door.
Representation is important, definitely.
Crucially, Yeah, it's not just, when people see Black Panther on TV, it's like, oh, we've got Black Panther. Like, it's at the base, at the grassroots level as well in every industry. You need that representation.
Definitely.
I think it's about having open conversations.
Honestly,
I think a lot of people are very scared, and you can see it because you're so used to it, about even saying, oh, you're black or you're different, and it's about being able to speak freely, because ultimately some people they really don't care, like and some people identify so differently based on the way they're brought up. So for example, I know quite a lot of people with very diverse backgrounds, but they're born bred in the UK, their parents are as well, so why does it make it that they're different to anyone else who was born here, who grew up here? So I think it's just having those open conversations, which can be difficult and awkward, but it's also, if you really push those barriers, then it's all about a learning process as well, because we want to learn from different people, and different people want to learn from us. So it's about saying, okay, there's boundaries, but these are the boundaries that are in place, and this is why they're in place, right? And understanding that you asking about touching your hair, for you it may be something innocent, and it can be completely innocent, but it's a trigger for you because you know what that means, because you've been through it time and time again, and you're being objectified, and that's where it becomes like
you don't feel like a person.
Again, you feel like an outlaw, you feel like you're alienating me because it's so different, and it's like, no, there's other ways you can embrace it, there's other ways we can talk about it, but we're only really going to get to that point once those conversations start happening. And I feel like in the workplace it's awkward, but it's where we spend a lot of our time on it on a day-to-day basis, so you have to.
Sorry to cut you off. I feel like last year was very, I don't know, I think some people chose to talk about it because of the whole Black Lives Matter movement, but I feel like after that whole fiasco happened last year, I feel like it's died down again, so why are we not talking about it still? Even with this Black History Month, I don't see a lot of companies talking about Black History Month. We only have 1 month out of the whole year to talk about Black history, Black culture, Black everything kind of thing. So I think we can talk about things like this, but I feel like there needs to be more implemented into it. So like, does everybody in our company know the diversity policy? Does everybody know the non-harassment and non-bullying policy? Like, make sure it's a pledge, or we do workshops, have people come in from time to time, talk about how this is not acceptable, what happens if you are harassed or somebody does bully you from your age, gender, race kind of thing. That needs to be happening much more, because as you said, we do spend a lot of time in the workplace kind of thing. So.
I think it needs to be integral, right? It needs to be something that just automatically happens. And I think why these conversations are so powerful is because, as we said, right, so we've all, when we're moving jobs or considering a new job, looked at the LinkedIn profile, see the diversity. Being in a company that works on recruitment and hiring and talent, how are we going to service our clients in telling them, okay, this is why we're not diverse, if those conversations haven't been had? If you're very male dominated, what incentives are you bringing on to get more females on board, or more people who are more gender neutral or fluid on board? What are you doing to get more people of different backgrounds on board, of different cultures? So this is what really drives that kind of power forward, and I think that any company who's willing to take accountability for that and saying, listen, it's not something we focused on, but we really want to get there, this is where it starts. It's by having these conversations, as you said, running these workshops, and also just generally caring, right? There's no point in pushing that forward to a statistic if you don't care. It's one of those things where, yes, the workplace is, I guess, a big part of our day-to-day, but it makes up about 20% of our week. So actually it's one of the cases where we don't have to sit down and be friends, but that's what makes a healthy culture. That's how we can be sure that our peers are happy. That's how we can be sure that we're happy actually doing our work and we're fulfilled. And especially now in hiring, I know a lot of people, that's where they place the most emphasis on. It's culture. It's about being in an environment that's employee feedback led, right? If we don't want to go into an office because we feel some type of way about it, we shouldn't be able to, right? As an example, right? And companies need to take that on board, not because it's laziness, but because I've got to spend more time with my kids, for example, so I don't want to go into office because now I've seen the difference. I've actually missed out on milestones, right? Not that I have kids, but just as an example. So yeah, it's about having those conversations, really driving that forward, and just being honest with people, being able to hold them to account, but knowing we're not attacking, because I feel like people expect you to be very reactive in a negative way, and it's like, that's not the intention. The intention is, I didn't appreciate that. I need you to really consider and be aware of what's going on, so you can understand where I'm coming from. And then we can move forward.
I know that's hard to do as well, especially like as black women. Like if you come across as confrontational, taken a lot differently to
or assertive.
Exactly.
Assertive, but that's sassy.
Exactly. And I have the same I think like the angry black man, you know, being like 6'4" black guy, a lot of people will find me intimidating. Like, I've had people cross the road like when they've seen me, or you know, clutch their handbags, and, you know, exactly.
Even getting to know you.
So but that's, it was up to us, you know, to just kind of block that out of our minds and be bold. Like normalize being ourselves in the workplace. I know it's like easier said than done, but someone has to do it. Someone has to, you know, have people become familiar with what we are, like unadulterated. You know what I mean?
And it's also about those biases, right? Because in the media, as you mentioned, in Black Lives Matter, it receives a lot of pros but a lot of cons as well. Because
it was just very for show. Nobody was really researching what this has been happening for a very long time.
But I feel like the message was really missed on that, because it's a case of people are being killed for simply the colour of their skin, right? People are being killed because of these assumptions that are being made. There's people dying, and it's all kind of like, well, they probably deserve it. And it's like, you're feeding into a stereotype, a stigma, a bias that you have, and you're not ready to accept that actually you're working in your power to confirm that with all the information, as opposed to put that to bed. Because why is it that, but this person's different, this black person's different, they're not the same as the others, and it's like, but we're all different, right? We have in common is that we share some cultural aspects and ultimately pigmentation and melanin. That's literally it. We're all so different. So it's just also kind of people being able to acknowledge the fact that it's not an overnight thing. You don't think about it and then become, but it is something that may happen unconsciously, but we really need to work to actually bring those biases to bed and realise that we can't make generalisations, especially in the workplace. Like you're never going to establish a good force with that. You're never going to be truly healthy, and you're never going to be able to drive forward, because regardless of where you go, whether it's a product or service, you need to appeal to someone, and you're never going to appeal to a big group of people because you haven't even bothered to dig into their motivations, into their feelings, into whatnot. So it's a broad space.
It is. Respect is key.
Exactly. And I think there's a huge misunderstanding as well. Like, you know, a big reason why Black Lives Matter movement wasn't as successful as it could have been is because a lot of people had, you know, the rebuttals such as White Lives Matter, all lives matter. Like, no one disputes that, and it's the same in the workplace. Like when we're talking about racism, it's like people say, but you know, I've had issues at work too, or I've had hard times. Like, that's not the point. Everyone has hard times.
Definitely.
But your skin color has never made your hard times even harder. Like, that's all it is. Like that extra layer of pressure that we've been discussing this whole talk. Where it's like, that's all we want you to acknowledge, that we have an extra burden there that you won't have. You might have a harder life than me outside of it, but you haven't got that extra. You've got a layer. I've got a layer that you have. We've got a layer that you haven't, and that's all we want you to acknowledge, and to help, you know, build an environment where we don't feel the extra layer, so we can be as good and productive at jobs, be as good employees and colleagues as we can be in that environment.
That's the thing, there's no true real inclusion and diversity until that's across all different groups, whether that be from a gender perspective,
100%.
LGBT,
100%.
you know, culture, there's never that. So it's not a case of putting anyone on a pedestal or treating people the exact same. It's acknowledging that we all have different struggles that we have to face.
And I feel like you should speak up. Because I feel like a lot of people have these issues and they don't want to speak up, kind of thing. So if you do want to raise it for your age, your gender, whatever, you should speak up about it and want to talk about it with your peers, kind of thing.
Exactly. Like, as women, you have an extra layer that I don't have. You know, there's going to be like people in the LGBT community that they have an extra layer that we may or may not have. So
it's all about creating that acceptance ultimately, right? But you can only really talk from the experiences you have, and from that you can only come up with solutions from that. But ultimately we need to stand together, that if we want equality for one group. It's for all groups across
Yeah,
all groups. Not
if you're not looking for equality for all groups, you're not looking for equality. You're looking for privilege.
Yeah.
You're looking to kind of join the winning team. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's true. You know, companies in general, and us, we should, be more aware of like our mental health, and just because that ties into everything, whether it's physical health, your performance, how you deal with issues that we've discussed. It was like with Talent Point, was it last week or 2 weeks ago on the mental health day? We had the name Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle Flynn.
Yeah, Michelle Flynn. Yeah, she came in, discussed about mental health in the workplace, and how into even just as small things like keeping a tidy room can help your mental health, like breathing exercises, just things you can to-do list, just being organized, just small things that can help clear the mind so you can be as productive as possible and as happy as possible.
Yeah. And it's breaking that stigma as well. I feel like there's a lot of stigma with mental health, when men go ahead and they can't express and they really internalize it, and that's not healthy. But it's also, we need to be able to create that space where we're breaking that down, right? Even though I can't see what you're going through, I can appreciate it and we can talk about it. And I think there's no real level to, but what do you have to be stressed about? I think it's very different for everyone because we're all very different people. But just like it is with kind of, as I said, with Black History Month and everything, right? It's a stigma that people face on a day-to-day basis that a lot of people can't acknowledge because they don't go through it. And it's like mental health, unless you go through it, you don't understand what people are going through. And some of it is temporary, right? We all get stressed, we all get burnt out, but a lot of it can be deeper rooted, have a real impact on performance. And toxicity and negativity breeds more of that, right? It's a domino effect, especially in the workplace, where any change, any stress, you get kind of like a crazy reaction when it actually should be something a little bit more smoother sailing. So I think it's important to focus on that and just cultivate those really healthy conversations, and it could be by workshops, team building exercises.
Check on people, like have a buddy. Like do.
I know some companies do no meeting days, or some days where it just gives people the freedom to actually do some work, not have to speak to people, and that's. Can you imagine not having a whole day without having a meeting? Or just other initiatives. There's a lot that we can do.
Socials.
Socials is definitely one of them, especially virtual, but also respecting the fact that some people, with this COVID are more introverted, do like their own space. So making things accessible to everyone.
Making sure everyone's included at all times as well. Inclusion is a very important thing, because some people may feel like, I didn't hear about that kind of thing, may feel like they're outside that kind of thing.
Like feedback mechanisms, polls, surveys, anything like that to
giving
really
everyone
understand.
a voice, giving everyone a voice.
Representing absolutely everyone, especially with regards to, because I think one of the things Michelle Flynn touched upon, which was really important, was the fact that your mental can really impact your physical. Like it can physically make you ill, and a lot of the times when we do take sick days, it's not actual sick days, because we can work through, a sore stomach or a cold. It's actually we're overwhelmed. We need that day to just, and it should be more accepting, right? Because you are physically able to work, but actually mentally you are drained. You are so overwhelmed. That should be normalised in the sense that, listen, if you need a day off to really sort yourself out mentally, go for it. You don't need to be almost on a deathbed in A&E for someone to acknowledge that there's something wrong. So it's just really driving those conversations, driving that forward, and putting in programs, trainings in place to really support people where you best can.
And that concludes our conversation about the importance of diversity and inclusion in the workplace and how it can affect the mental health of Black employees. Just again, these are just our thoughts and experiences. We're just opening the can of worms here, having the conversation. So I'm pretty sure those of you watching will have your own comments, opinions, and solutions to what we've discussed. So if you do, please share them with us. Thank you.